Last 2 years have been really good, really successful, and it's been an incredible journey to get there. Fourth evolution of the RB5 this year, so obviously pressure to try and stay there if we possibly can. Difficult task. We've lost the exhaust technology with the restriction exhaust outlet position that we were able to develop and perhaps be ahead of the pack on over the last couple of years, and that's led to a big rethink over the winter. Whether that will affect us more than other people is difficult to know, of course. We designed the RB7, last year's car, around that exhaust position, and we're probably the only people to do so. So it may be that we've lost more than other people through that. Only time will tell. It'd be good to get out some testing, see where we get to. Regulation restrictions like the loss of exhausts are a bit frustrating in truth, because they are exactly that, they're restrictions. They're not giving new opportunities or avenues particularly, they're just closing a door. So regulation changes I enjoy, regulation restrictions I rather lament. RB7, as I said, was designed around the exhaust. This year, knowing that exhaust position from last year would be taken away, we've had to go back and look at how we had developed the car through the last somewhere between 1 and 2 years with the side exhaust, and try and, if you like, make sure that routes that we'd taken that were only suitable for that exhaust position, we now have to re-evaluate. Probably one of the key things there has been the rear ride height. The exhaust allowed us to run a very high rear ride height. It's much more difficult without that to sustain a high rear ride height, so we have to go back down and have to redevelop the car around that lower height. The restriction nose height, which is a maximum height just in front of the front bulkhead, hasn't really changed the chassis shape very much. We've kept more or less the same chassis shape, but had to drop the nose just in front of the front bulkhead, which, in common with many other teams, has led to this, I think we'd probably say, slightly ugly looking nose. We've tried to style it as best we can, but it's not a feature you'd choose to put in were it not for the regulation. I would say RB8 is the fourth generation of what started as a 2009 car, the RB5. So I guess this is the great grandson of that car. I've been lucky enough through my career to have had a good amount of success. Enough people often ask, am I going to retire soon or whatever? The answer is, as long as I keep enjoying it, then I'd like to keep going. What really fascinates me about it is the technical challenge, the fact that we've moved at a very high, fast pace. So every 2 weeks we're out being evaluated, which if you're doing well is great, if you're doing poorly is painful, but at least you know where you are, and you get to see the product of your work very quickly. So I really enjoy working with my colleagues, my fellow engineers here at Milton Keynes, with the drivers, of course, at the track. It's a job that has many facets and many varieties, but you always get that immediate feedback, and that's what really motivates me about the job. I think we have a great driver lineup. Sebastian, obviously double world champion now. I think matured tremendously through last year. In 2010 he drove a great season, showed immense talent and thoroughly deserved to be world champion at the end of it. But it was a rocky year. He was a very young lad. He showed incredible determination and ability to learn from his mistakes. Like all people, he made mistakes through that year, but he never made them twice. And I think that ability to learn from his mistakes and to always be searching and trying to improve really showed in his driving last year. He really made no mistakes last year. He was aggressive when he needed to be. He was patient when he needed to be. Really showed incredible maturity, and there's no reason to think that that won't continue. Mark had a rocky ride last year. Through 2010 he had a very good season. He was unlucky in many ways not to be world champion at the end of that year. 2011 he initially, I think, struggled a little bit to understand how to use the Pirelli tyres. Took him a little bit of time to adapt to them. He's had a great winter. He's tremendously fit. He's really looking forward to the start of the season, and I think he'll be one to look out for this year, I hope. Team's still a relatively young team. We've come a long way in a very short period. Had a great deal of success over the last 2 or 3 years, but we still occasionally show our youth. We still occasionally make mistakes, which hopefully it's like the Swan. It looks graceful on the top, but there's a lot of action going on underneath. So we're still learning, but I think the fact that we are a young team with tremendous spirit and determination is great. It means that we do learn, and we do try to evaluate and continually criticise ourselves and see how we can improve. So I would hope that with the confidence of the last few years in our steady improvement, we can keep maintaining and keep learning. People often ask just before the new car runs, what's the expectation for this year? And my answer is always, I have absolutely no idea. We know what we've done through